Hey guys, it's Carla. Today I'm working on a canvas panel with acrylic paint. I've got white, bright yellow, golden sunset, jack-o'-lantern, vintage tea rose, bright blue, and burnt umber. But you can create your own colors on this. I'm going to start with my sky with just a flat synthetic brush, and I want it to be bluer toward the top and then get warmer toward the bottom. So be a little bit of blue and white and some glazing liquid. Now as I come down toward the warmer colors, I want to really lighten this up so that it's not so hard to blend into. So now I've got that soft edge that'll be easier to come into with the yellows. Okay. Now I need to determine where my horizon line is going to be and start down there with the warmer shades. Let's see, maybe a mixture of these two. So I think it'll be about right here. That might have been too low, but I can cover it with ground. So. And then again, just lighten it up as I get closer to the blue. All right. I'm going to let that dry. I'll go ahead and put in my distant land back there while that's drying, and then I'll come back to it. So for that distant land, I want it to be kind of a purplish shade. Gotta be real careful with that blue. It'll take over everything. Okay. So I don't want this to be like a straight line back here. So I'm using my fan brush and just tapping. I don't want a hard line, hard or straight. So I'm just tapping in that edge and then bringing it on down a little ways. Okay. Now I can go ahead and, I think that's almost dry. Actually, let me go ahead and dry it and come back to it. Okay, now that's dry. Now I'm going to come in with a soft synthetic brush. Right here where my sun is going to be, I want to lighten it up with white so I can put yellow over it. I don't want hard edges on the outsides, so just kind of feather it off to the side. Okay. Now I can come in with my bright yellow and brighten that area up. And now on these outer edges, I want to warm it up some more. So I think I'll take, maybe add a little bit more of that. And from the outside in, I'm kind of just sweeping it in. Because the darker this part looks, the brighter that center is going to look. All right, now I'm gonna find the right brush. I'm just using a small round brush to put in my sun. It's just a little circle right here in the center of this bright area. All right, now I can start putting in my trees. I'm going to use, I've got this hog bristle brush that, it's just a round brush and it's flat on the end instead of having a tip. It's flat on the end, but it's a round brush. It's hog bristle, and I've really abused it like that so that it's got these frayed edges, and that will give me good foliage. So I'm gonna mix up a green shade. All right, so I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start over here and come this way. And I just want to just lightly tap in some tree shapes. And a lot of these are going to get covered up, but when they show through, at least they'll be back there, like when there's gaps in the trees and stuff. So I just want to come up with different sizes and shapes of trees. And I don't want to tap too hard because it'll cover up all of my sky. And I want some of it to show through. Now down toward the bottom of the trees, they're going to be darker where it's more shaded. Alright, now with a clean brush, I'm going to come in and put in some highlights. So I've got to keep in mind that my sun is right here. So my highlights on these trees are going to be on the left, and on these trees they're going to be on the right. So I'm just barely tapping in some of this golden color. Okay, now I'm going to switch to the right side of the trees. Okay. Now I can go ahead and put in my big tree right here. So I'm just going to use a liner brush to put my trunk in. And I'm thinning down my brown so that it'll flow better. So I'm going to have it about right here. Go up. As it gets up, I'm giving it a lighter touch so that it gets thinner as it goes up. And then you can come back and make the trunk as thick as you want. Just keep in mind that it needs to get thinner at the top. And then the limbs and branches are a very light touch. And you gotta keep that paint thin down or it won't come off the brush. All right, now a lot of those are going to get covered up, but got to have them in there. All right, now back to my foliage brush. I'm going to use this green shade. If I want it to be airy, I'm just going to barely touch it. If I want it to be more solid, then I'll tap it harder. I'm kind of forming almost clumps of foliage because that's typically how trees look. Be sure to leave some of the sky showing through so that it looks more natural. Okay, so now over on this side, I want to add in more blue because it's in shadow. Blue is a nice shadow color. And then on the side facing the sun, I'm going to use this golden color. Being careful not to cover up all of my green. I'm just highlighting the green. All right. Now I'm going to move on to my grassy area. So I'm going to go back to my fan brush, my hog bristle fan brush. Come up with a nice grassy color. And I'm going to use the tip of my fan brush to create that grassy edge back there. So I'm just tapping it in very loosely. And then I'm going to do the same thing all over, but if I leave some of the white canvas showing through, then it'll work as highlights for me later. So I'm not going to paint it solid. All right, and before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and warm up this area back here. So I'm just using a small round brush, liner brush, and with orange, I'm going to very lightly brush that in. I'm using a liner brush so that I can avoid these trees back here. So that kind of gives it a warmer look on that land back there. All right, now back to my fan brush. I need a little bit more of that golden color. So right back here where the sun is going to be shining on the grass, I want to highlight it with this. I'm just lightly tapping it in. Creating planes right here so that it's not just all yellow. You've got some of that green showing through. And then maybe a little bit of yellow. And a little bit of orange. Okay, now back to my foliage brush. I'm going to have some blue flowers in here, so let's mix up a light blue. So wherever I want these flowers, I'm just barely tapping it in. And then back here, where it would be more shaded from the trees, I'm going to darken it up, darken up the blue. I might even put a little bit of blue in my distant trees, just to add color. Just barely tapping it into the bottoms of the trees, because again, blue is a good shadow color, so when you see it, you automatically think that that's in shadow. And it just adds more color to it. Okay, now one last thing that I'm going to do with my fan brush, I've got some water on it, and I think I'll use, maybe I'll use a yellow shade. It's got to be very watered down for this. So I'm going to use my palette knife to scrape it against, but you can use another paintbrush or whatever. But this will just give me some kind of almost flowers, I guess. Maybe they're dandelions. And if you get some up in your trees, sometimes you can just rub them out. You might need a damp paper towel or something. These are coming right off. That way they're all just concentrated on the grass. All right, that does it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, God bless you.